The general consensus nowadays seems to be that practical effects are cool and CGI is lame. We, however, don't believe this is so. In our opinion, any form of effects has merit. If you can make us feel fear for something we know doesn't exist, if you can make us accept reality, something we know to be fantasy, and if you can make us believe in something we know to be truly impossible, then that has to be worthy of praise, no matter what medium you use. However, even though a lot of VFX shots make us wonder if they were real or who did them or how they did them, the ones we're going to look at today simply just make us ask why. Okay, so you can probably argue that the entire Green Lantern film was a pointless use of CGI, but the Green Lantern suit itself really did not need to be fully CG. In general, superhero movies tend to use practical suits, and then all the digital components and effects are added over the top as needed. This is because designing, sculpting, animating, texturing, and lighting a full CG suit is a tremendously expensive and time-consuming process, especially when, as in the case with Green Lantern, the suit has to hug each individual muscle contour. What makes the decision to go with a CG suit all the more baffling is that it meant that Sony Pictures Imageworks had to achieve some of the hardest things to achieve with digital VFX. They had to get accurate motion capture of the actors' performances. They had to animate their CG asset, paying special attention to micro muscle movements when the actor spoke, moved, exhaled, or inhaled in order to make it believable. They had to achieve the correct lighting of the asset in every scene so that the actor's head became one with the suit instead of looking like it had just been stuck on top. But possibly the hardest thing they had to achieve, and unfortunately failed to do so, was to give the asset weight. Giving a digital asset the illusion of mass or weight is one of the hardest things to achieve with digital effects, and it is what makes you really feel what you are seeing is real. The Green Lantern's lack of weight made the character seem unreal, like a cartoon or a video game character, and that is not what you want in a film whose entire plot relies on the audience empathizing with its hero. Stanley Kubrick showed Warner Bros. His cut of the 1999 film Eyes Wide Shut just 1 week before he died from a heart attack. The original cut featured a rather extended orgy scene that meant the film would have been given an NC-17 rating. Warner Bros. Wasn't happy because they felt that an R rating would make the film more lucrative, so they used CGI. In every shot of the orgy scene that was deemed too gratuitous, they digitally added people in robes, furniture, or just the naked people's backs to cover up the offending parts and make the scene less offensive and shocking, even though this was probably what Kubrick was looking to provoke with the scene. This film was the 7th film in the Halloween series. It's a fairly low-budget slasher from the late 90s, so it's not a film you'd expect to have CGI, and it would probably be better if it didn't. The filmmakers couldn't decide on the design of Michael Myers' mask during pre-production, and so its design evolved as they shot principal photography. Once they started post-production, they had gone through 4 different designs and decided on a final one which they used to reshoot the scenes where Michael Myers was wearing a different one. However, the scene where Charlie comes face to face with Michael couldn't be reshot, and so they decided to use a CG mask instead. This proved to be a big mistake, as the end result stands out horribly, making Michael seem almost comical. Considering the shot was less than a second long, it could have just been left out completely. They could have just jumped straight to the over-the-shoulder shot, to the reaction in his eye shot, which would have been a lot less jarring. At the very start of this film, a rat scampers across a street in Hell's Kitchen and then gets scared by a blast of steam coming from a grate. During principal photography, after trying numerous times to get a real rat to move and react exactly how the director wanted it to, they decided to give up and fix it in post. Rhythm and Hughes dealt with all the VFX for this movie, and in general, they did a good job. But although the CG rat they built for the sequence looked fairly realistic, its movements did not. And this is helped by the fact that the CG rat also lacks weight and seems almost as though it's floating across the street. But the main issue with the shot is that it is completely unnecessary. It has nothing to do with the story and just seems like an idea the director had for an intro that ended up being a lot of work for very little return. It does, however, set the tone for the movie, letting the audience know that they're about to watch a lot of VFX with no rhyme or reason behind them. Public Enemies is a 2009 film that has some really good VFX. So good that it's shocking to hear that it has 400 VFX shots. One shot is particularly shocking, not for its seamlessness, but rather for its cheap video game quality and pointlessness. During the first bank robbery, John Dillinger, aka Johnny Depp, vaults the counter in an impressive action shot, but it's not really Johnny Depp that actually vaults the counter, but a stunt double. Why Depp didn't vault the counter, we don't know. It seems pretty easy. They could have just put a mattress down on the other side, or he could have vaulted a green pole and the counter itself could have been CG. It seems like anything would have been easier and looked better than doing a complete digital face replacement. Let us know in the comments what you think. The Twilight saga has got some impressive VFX work too. Digital environments, set extensions, and digital walls were all done well and made sense for them to be done digitally. The baby Renesmee, on the other hand, is a different story. On set, they actually had an animatronic baby that was, to say the least, pretty creepy. The cast found it incredibly hard to work with, not just because of the puppetry involved, but because something about the doll itself instantly caused revulsion. After numerous attempts, they eventually decided to use real babies and toddlers instead. Up to here, it's all pretty logical, but now it gets baffling. The filmmakers wanted to show that Renesmee was no ordinary baby, so instead of just casting babies and toddlers who looked similar to Mackenzie Foy, the actor who was playing the older version of Renesmee, they decided to use photos of Mackenzie's childhood to create digital versions of her at different ages. Months and months of work went into creating this baby, which, although definitely less creepy than the animatronic version, is still from the same realm of uncanny valley, and this is probably where it should have stayed. In the first John Wick film, the budget was fairly low, around $25 million, so CGI had to be used sparingly. This being said, for the scenes where John's establishing a relationship with his dog, Daisy, one shot required Daisy to poop on the lawn. The film crew didn't have time to wait for her to poop naturally, and they weren't allowed to give the dog laxatives either, so they decided to do it digitally. This CG poop allegedly cost around $5,000 to create. While we understand why the director felt the shot was necessary to show how well trained and intelligent Daisy the dog was, we think it probably could have been done practically for a lot less money. I mean, for a couple of grand, surely there was an extra who wouldn't have minded producing one of their own. Please give us a like if you enjoyed this video. Don't forget the links to the music used in this video are in the video description, and be sure to let us know, as always, in the comments section which movie VFX you'd like to see behind next.